coloring utensil to write with to draw the circle. And then from there, you just hand them or leave out oil pastels, and the 2 words that you tell them are to surprise themselves. And through this invitation, their unconscious will come out. And so reflecting upon the mandala created through the client's use of the senses in the MARI assessment specifically has the potential to evoke trauma that is stored at the cellular level. And then from evoking this trauma at the cellular level, you can take it into the, take the opportunity to address it in the following sessions. And so it's interesting because in this mandala that they create in the MARI assessment, all the client's thoughts can be linked back to this MARI mandala that they created for this assessment. So integrating the initial mandala throughout the remainder of sessions is really impactful. And then also within this mandala that they create, once the trauma is re-evoked, the subject must be provided with new and creative outlets so that the trauma will no longer be re-solidified on the cellular level in the same old way. And trauma is stored at the cellular level when one experiences fight, flight, or freeze. So addressing the creative outlets that we can help clients use when the trauma comes up or when the symbols re-evoke this trauma. Dance, movement, and visual arts are great examples of this. I would say overall visual art is absolutely the most integrated way that mandalas are pulled into sessions with clients, whether that be coloring in a mandala, creating their own mandala, could be through collage, it could be through drawing, and we'll do one in a little bit that is a visual art mandala. There's many ways that we can include as clinicians mandalas into our work in a visual art activity. And also it's interesting to think about dance and movement and how mandala naturally shows up in dance and movement. So one of the articles that I read about mandalas and its linked to movement and dance is that culturally these dances that were being done were circular formations, and that's a mandala in and of itself. And if you think of dancers when they, like ballet dancers, when they spin, they're doing a circular movement. And it's the rhythmic kind of piece of mandalas that helps to make it a meditative-like state, which we'll get into in a little bit. And then the last one that I found really interesting that I'm just gonna briefly talk on, I'm not gonna read all my notes, is assessing a couple's compatibility. So using the MARI test, this study had this assessment of a couple's compatibility. In this study had each individual of the couple create, use the, what was it? They used the card test, and then they created their MARI assessment mandala, and it was looked at individually, and then after looked at individually, it was looked at together. And from there, they were working towards an understanding of the 7 main categories of compatibility, which can be found in the article that I linked there next to the words assessing a couple's compatibility. But it's interesting because in this work, I think using the card test specifically from the MARI assessment, the mandala is divided into 4 quadrants and 12 stages. Each quadrant represents different components of each person. For example, early traumatic memories could very well present themselves in the center of the mandala, which is referred to as stage 0 in the MRI assessment, or the MARI assessment, excuse me, because this stage represents the person's core, the earliest cellular awareness connection to the transpersonal on the deepest level of consciousness. So healing levels, healing properties of mandalas that are directly related to trauma treatment. So each of these bullet points are studies that I found that are directly correlate the benefits of creating mandalas to the symptoms and the treatment of trauma. So the first one, the first study found that mandalas can help unify the conflicting ideas within the psyche. And this is specifically work found by Jung. And he said, and it was said that in his work, these unification of conflicting ideas comes about through the symbolic expression, which I talked about earlier, which was that when the clients reflect on the symbols, they access that cellular level trauma. And so through this symbolic expression of unconscious and conscious material, they are able to unify what the unconscious says and what the conscious says over here. And then also an improved mood state and greater reduction in negative mood was found in another study. And the third study that I linked a finding to was that there was a significant reduction in overall symptomology of veterans with PTSD. And this was specifically using mandalas like all of the other studies. And lastly, because when we do mandala creations and we engage with the work of mandalas, we achieve a meditative like state, especially if we're in our safe sessions, or if we're holding those safe sessions for clients, they know that their work's unconditionally accepted and that they're safe in the container that we've helped create alongside of them. They have proven, mandalas have, to reduce anxiety in this meditative like state that is achieved. And the next part is going to be